Okay, so if you hated CivPro, I have a clinic for you. I'm Josh Averton. I'm one of the faculty members in the corporate lab. We received a generous grant from Kirkland Ellis, who we're named after. And what do we do? So we're a transactional clinic that's focused on basically everything under the sun that a corporation might encounter is a legal issue. We primarily do regulatory compliance, transactional work for multinational companies, a lot of Fortune 500 companies, Nike, IBM, Walmart, Verizon, companies like that. And we also work with a number of local startups. And in the spring quarter, we work with Booth on the New Venture Challenge. For those of you who don't know what that is, the New Venture Challenge is sort of a Booth startup accelerator program that functions similarly to how like Shark Tank works. They Booth students form companies, they create pitch books, and they have meetings with VC and private equity investors. At the end of the contest, there's one winner and I think two runner-ups announced, and they receive seed funding from some of the participating venture capital firms. So it's a lot of fun to be involved in that. So through our work with both large multinationals and startups, we try to give our students a nice flavor for every sort of corporate experience that they might be able to anticipate having as a junior associate at a law firm. So the way that our deals or our projects are structured is that we interface directly with in-house legal departments at our clients. For our large corporations, this occasionally means general counsels, but most frequently means associate general counsels of different subgroups within the legal team, which now, a typical legal team, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, in-house would be 5-10 lawyers. Now you get hundreds, even thousands of lawyers at large companies. When we're dealing with startups or smaller, less developed corporations, we interface usually directly with the founders. That's a totally different experience, and we try to put our students into groups so that their teams are paired with startup clients as well as large developed clients, so they really get a mix of both experiences. As I mentioned just now, it's a team-based clinic. Each team has its own clients. We tend to work in groups of maybe 5 or 6. Each team has 5 or 6 clients, and we try to make the teams as varied as possible. So you're getting different subject matter, different client experiences, and all of that. So who is a good fit for the lab? It doesn't have to just be people who don't like CivPro. We are a good fit for anyone who wants to either be a future litigator or a future transactional attorney. The breadth of what we do and the skills that you will learn means that you'll have a positive experience, hopefully, regardless of what your future career plans are. And some people might not even know what their future career plans are at this point, and that's perfectly okay. One way you can find out you don't like corporate law is to do some corporate law. So if you're planning on working at a firm or going in-house, you'll get some directly transferable skills. You'll get knowledge of some niche legal areas. It's hard to say exactly what we do in any given quarter because we have so many different clients with so many different needs, and all of our projects arise organically. But we can ascertain some trends. 2 years ago, there was a lot of work on GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation that came out of Europe, that imposes much stricter regulations on what companies can and can't do with your data and how they collect your data. Last year, there was a lot of work done on force majeure clauses, other breach of contract issues due to the pandemic supply chain issues. And there were a lot of companies that had questions on how to structure work from home policies, what they can and can't do with respect to work from home monitoring of employee hardware. And this year, there's been a lot of continued work from home questions, people having issues about how do we clock hours for people who bill hourly or work hourly, required to work 40 hours a week, but they're working from home. Again, what can we not monitor on someone's computer that is issued by work? Spoiler alert, if you get a computer issued by your place of work, they can monitor everything you do on that, so act accordingly. But if you're interested, in public service or in litigation or in clerking or something like that, you'll gain other transferable skills, as Professor Leslie was just mentioning. You'll learn a lot of soft skills. We have every project begins with a client intake meeting. We will have our students conduct, phone calls with their in-house counterparts to figure out what their legal needs are at the time. With established, sophisticated clients, it's pretty straightforward. Typically, they will tell you exactly what their legal needs are. For startups, especially young startups where people who have no legal experience, they don't know what they don't know. They kind of generally meander, they talk about their business plan, they talk about where they want to be in 5 years, they don't really know how to get there, and they don't really know what some legal restrictions might be. Sometimes there are plenty of them. We had an NBC potential client a few years ago who sat down with us, and his idea for a company that he wanted to pitch to the NBC was effectively, it's illegal to bank money earned from selling marijuana in federal banks. He wanted to create some sort of weird elaborate shell scheme where people would buy shares and he would pay them out. He had never considered that this might not be legal, remarkably. So even the smartest people who go, to Booth and have great business minds might not have thought of all the repercussions and the most basic legal questions. So, it's fun working with both types of clients. Again, you'll learn research and writing and drafting skills. We try to get as much contract drafting work as we can. I'd say we do a good mix of contract drafting and memo writing. And there's, some litigation, but not all that much. So here, as I touched on before, some examples of our clients. We have 3M, Verizon, Nike, Kraft Heinz, Sony, Victoria's Secret, Accenture. Some clients are local. Victoria's Secret, our contact there is Forrest Deegan, who teaches a seminar on compliance in the spring. He likes to come to town and interact with our students. Kraft Heinz has a local office. We've had dinners with their general counsel in the past. IBM, same thing. We really try to get our students to meet face-to-face with the clients and network. Because one, it's a good skill to have, professional networking, and two, it's a real feather in your cap if you're to go to a law firm and they have Kraft Heinz as a client. You say, "Oh, I know, Jim, the CEO or the general counsel of Kraft Heinz." Immediately you might start to build some rapport with these clients and get on projects with them at your future law firms if that's the route you choose to take. So here, as a pretty wide array of deals that we've worked on or projects we worked on this past year. We've written memoranda on sports licensing agreements, particularly with respect to the new NIL laws, where students can be paid for the name, image, and likeness. We have one client who is a sports agency. They typically also have a lot of interesting projects that require some creative legal solutions, because on the one hand, these are sophisticated legal questions, but on the other hand, our client Kyle generally needs something that's 2 to 3 pages tops that he can share with his professional athlete clients, and it's written at a reading level. It's a little different from what you might expect if you're producing something for a law firm. It's got to be short sentences, pictures. He says that they have maybe 30 seconds of attention span to focus on this because they're training and they have much more important things to do. We've done eminent domain research for a Western utility company this year. We've researched plenty of times, researched the costs and benefits for specific companies in their corporate structuring. We do that with NBC clients quite frequently. We have some 501c3 clients where we're doing some tax exempt work that we help them structure those tax exempt organizations. Notably, we helped Judge Posner several years ago establish his nonprofit that was designed to help pro ses with litigation. We do regulatory research on some food labeling laws in various countries for one of our food manufacturing clients. These projects our international projects are fairly interesting because you really get to see the disparity between laws and how one company has to create one cohesive strategy, often in areas where the law might be a little divergent. We draft privacy-related language quite frequently because there's been a lot of shakeup in privacy law. This can be an end-user agreement. This can be a website privacy agreement. It can even be privacy policies for how companies treat their employees. And we do this quite frequently for small companies, startups, and large companies who want to, sort of take the temperature on what market is for these kind of agreements from time to time. We draft bylaws, operating agreements, all of that. We'll analyze compliance risk procedures for internal employee ethics hotlines. That's something we've done for several clients over the past year as white collar crime sometimes ebbs and flows with the news cycle, and companies will want to take a look at their policies. So this is just a small sampling. We do a lot. We've done some M&A work. We help our clients do diligence on potential acquisitions. Typically, this is for larger companies who are looking to buy smaller niche companies rather than develop in-house whatever their service is. So there's opportunities for people to take leadership positions within the lab. We have sitting here Alex and Chloe, who are student directors. The student directors are students who have excelled in their first year in the lab and are invited back and sort of a leadership role in their second year to be mentors for a team of students and be your first line of drafting review or site checking or any basic questions that someone might have. I've touched on networking. You have the opportunity, especially hopefully going forward. We didn't do as much over the past 2 years with the pandemic. Hopefully, we'll be in a position in the fall where we can resume networking events. This often takes the form of dinners or lunches with Kirkland attorneys, dinners or cocktails with clients, and then we will host group cocktails for several clients and several teams of students. Additionally, we host a speaker series where we bring in either clients or Kirkland attorneys who have specialized in certain practice areas that you might not learn about in law school. We've had employment counsel to the NBA come in. We've had sports agents. We've had some private equity managing directors who are former lawyers who are now in finance themselves. So we really try to give a wide array of experience. And when we do have a speaker series event, we tend to have some sort of small networking event immediately following. So that's just a broad overview of the lab. It's Professor Sarkis and me, and we have our contact information up here. Professor Sarkis was unable to make it today. Any questions, please do feel free to reach out. I believe we have some time for questions and answers now. And as my colleagues have all said, regardless of which clinic you take, it really is a great experience to be in a clinic, and it's what most people find to be the highlight of their law school experience.